guys, welcome back. So today let's talk something serious. Let's talk about anxiety, and more specifically dealing with anxiety as an entrepreneur. So I am someone who has dealt with anxiety for many years, but I never really wanted to admit it. I always felt like people who said they were anxious or felt like they were about to have like an anxiety attack or like a panic attack, that they were kind of just using that as an excuse to not do certain things or to not face certain situations, which was very naive of me because at the time I didn't realize that what I was feeling had a lot to do with anxiety. I thought what I was feeling was just me being overly paranoid, me just overly thinking things. You know, I didn't think much of it. I felt like I could get through it myself. But I've definitely learned over the years that anxiety isn't just one of those things you can snap out of. That some days are great, and then you have those days where you can't sleep. You feel like your heart is going to beat out your chest. You feel that like pit in your stomach, and it's just a million and one thoughts going through your mind all at the same time, and you really feel like you're going to fall out. So today I wanted to just share a little bit about my journey and dealing with anxiety, and some of the things that I have been able to kind of not get through it, but that has helped me to manage my anxiety. So I wanted to say my very first time realizing, okay, this is real, was right before I quit my full-time job. I was working in a call center, and I've told this story on YouTube before, one of my really old videos, but I was working in a call center, which I hated. If you've ever worked in any type of customer service, any type of like call center situation, you know that it's already set up to not be the best of places. Like, I truly believe it takes a special kind of person to be able to deal with that day in and day out. And if you are that type of person, then more power to you, because I could not do it. So I remember I was working in a call center, and it was like a medical call center. So basically people would call in, and I would make sure like their medical bill was paid for. I would like take their insurance, you know, not anything too crazy, but there would be those situations where I'd have people call in and they'd say, you know, my wife's dying of cancer and now I have this $50,000 bill. What do? I can't pay it. Or you'd have those situations where people would get on the phone crying because they, you know, weren't able to pay their bills. So while it was a relatively easy job, it was a very heavy job as well. Just hearing different people's situations, having to deal with people's, you know, medical bills who, you know, family members have just passed away from some type of terminal illness. It was definitely a very heavy job. And I feel like I'm the type of person who, I put up a good front. I try not to let my emotions get the best of me. I try not to show it on the outside that something is getting to me, but I'm also someone who takes on other people's emotions as well. So it really put me in a low pace, like spiritually as well. But I also, you know, besides that, I will also have those people who would just call in and were angry. For whatever reason, they would just call in and just go off. And I know in those types of situations, you're not supposed to let that get to you because that person doesn't know you personally. But going through that day in, day out, hearing about people passing, hearing about people not being able to pay their bill, you know, getting cursed out, it will really take you over the edge after a while. And this one particular day, when I had the panic attack, I remember someone calling me in. It was a lady, and she had like her mother on the phone with her as well. And I guess there was some like issue with her bill, but I don't even remember the situation all the way. But I just remember her cursing me out like never before. I mean, not just going off on the situation, like literally directing it at me. And she called me all types of names. She called me the B word. She called me the N word. Like, I don't even know how she knew that talking over the phone, but she called me all these types of names. And at that point, I think I had just had enough. Like, I had already had in my head that I couldn't do this anymore. I already had in my head that, you know, this was not the job for me. I couldn't do this anymore. I had already started my thin jewelry business, so like my mind was already 100% on working on building that. So like I was already completely disconnected, but this one situation literally took me over the edge. So like there's nothing I could do. I couldn't hang up on the lady. I couldn't curse her back out or anything like that. Like I literally had to sit there and I had to take it. So I remember her going off on me, like literally cussing me to the floor, and I just felt like a pit had dropped in my stomach. I remember my heart racing like a mile a minute. Like literally I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. It was going so fast. Like I got super hot, like a wave of heat just like went over on me, and I was like, I know I'm about to pass out. So I remember hanging up the phone in my little cubicle that I had. I ran to the bathroom in the call center. I like slammed the door, went into a stall, and I just burst out crying on the floor. Like full on ugly cry, like hysterical crying on the floor. I knew I could not take it anymore. And I remember calling my mom, and at that moment telling her like, I can't do this. Like this is not for me. And I didn't even know then that what I was experiencing was a full-on panic attack. Like it was uncontrollable. It was like something I had never felt before, but I knew in that moment that I needed to take back control over my life, and I also needed to take control of the anxiety that I had been feeling as well. Needless to say, I came back in the next day, or it might have been a couple days later, and I put in my 2 weeks notice for that job. So, you know, that's how I actually quit my full-time job, if anybody was wondering, to pursue my business. But that led me down the road to entrepreneurship, but it also made me want to be more mindful and more attentive to how I felt when it came to feeling anxiety. So I was still kind of naive about it. I had did a bunch of research online, and I knew I could have gone and talked to someone. I could have gone easily to like a therapist. I could have, you know, went and sat down with somebody, but I kept having this thought in my mind, like they're just gonna tell me to, you know, take some medicines, and are gonna have me like drugged up all the time, and I don't want to walk around like, you know, a zombie. I'll just try to fix it myself. I'll worry about it myself. So I'm still very naive at that point, even after, you know, recognizing that I did have an issue with anxiety, even realizing that, you know, I had a full-on panic attack and that I needed some type of help. I was still very naive in the fact that I could take care of this myself. So I figured out different ways to kind of cope with anxiety. Of course, I'm not like a licensed psychologist. I'm not like a licensed therapist or anything, so I can't give you tips on like a medical front, but I definitely can talk about some of the things that I have been able to do to simply cope with having anxiety. So one of the things that I've learned over the years is that I need to recognize my triggers. So I know that if I'm put in certain situations, I begin to feel like my anxiety flare up, especially as a business owner, because for some reason I thought after I quit my job, like all of my anxiety would just go out the window and I would be a-okay. But I would love to say that, you know, being a business owner, kind of being able to make my own rules for the most part has helped that, but it hasn't. So one of the things that has helped me throughout this process of really just managing my anxiety has been to recognize my triggers. So what sets me off, what kind of sends me over edge. I know for one that I can't overwhelm myself. So even when I sit down to write out my to-do list, I cannot put more than 1 or 2 like major products on my schedule for the week, because if I don't get something done, I'll kind of let that perfectionism kick in, and I'll want to like work from sun up to sundown to try to get it done, and in most cases that's not possible. So to kind of defeat that overwhelm and to not send me into like feeling a lot of that anxiety, I reschedule my workday to make it easier on me as well. Another thing that I've noticed as well that has been a trigger for my anxiety is being in large groups. I joke all the time and say that I have like social anxiety, but I really do think I have some form of it. And again, this is just me self-diagnosing myself, you guys. But I noticed that when I am in a large group of people, it really makes my anxiety flare up. I can't explain why it does it. I can't explain exactly what causes it, but I know if I'm in a large group of people or if I'm around a lot of people for a long period of time, I start to feel that same, like my heart flutters, I get really hot, I kind of fall back and get really reserved. So I've noticed that when I'm in those types of situations, or if I have to go to different events or something like that, then I need to also factor in time for myself. So I'm someone who recharges really well when I have time to myself, or if I can just kind of sit there and be calm and not feel pressured to have to interact and meet with people. So I know that if I am going to be in those types of situations where I'm going to be with people all the time, then I also need to know that I can factor in time for myself as well to kind of recharge. Another thing that has helped me too to kind of cope with my anxiety is learning to say no. I am definitely a bona fide people pleaser. I want to make sure everyone is happy. I hate disappointing people or feeling like I am disappointing people. But me learning to say no has literally changed, I don't want to say my life, but it's changed a lot for me when it comes to managing and really dealing with my anxiety. Like I mentioned before, I become really overwhelmed when I have a lot on my plate, or if I feel like I can't have that alone time to myself. So in some situations, if I'm putting that at risk, or if I'm overbooking myself, or if I know I haven't had, my me time in a really long time, then unfortunately for some situations I do have to say no. And not just saying no, but saying no and making no a complete sentence. So I don't have to say no and give like a full explanation as to why I can't do it. I had to learn to be comfortable in saying no and just leaving it at that. I always say that it's okay for you to be selfish if you're putting yourself first and if you're putting your own health first. And while I wish, there was 10 of me and I could be in every place at every time with everyone, I know that my body, my mind doesn't react to that well. So I have had to say no to a lot of things. Even with dealing with my fiance, he's someone who loves to be out. He loves to be around people, and I admire that about him because I wish I could be like that. But we've kind of come to like an agreement as well where, if I go out with him one night, then he knows that next night it either needs to be, a chill night at home, or us just watching movies, or us just relaxing. So you need to be able to learn how to say no, and also communicate that with the people who are around you, or the people that you're going to be around the most, because you don't want them to be on the outside thinking, oh, she just doesn't want to be around me, or, she never wants to help me out. You need to just simply explain to them like, yes, I do, but I know that there are going to be consequences if I continue to push myself. The third thing that has really helped me to manage my anxiety has also been through prayer and journaling. I will definitely say that dealing with anxiety has been one of the key factors to me this year and last year of really wanting to reconnect with God and kind of strengthening in my faith, because I do find peace in prayer. I do find peace in being in his word, and he also says we should be anxious for nothing. So really just reconnecting in my faith, taking time every single morning, no matter what I have to do. I sit down, I do my devotional. Right now I'm reading Jesus Calling. I do my devotional. I spend time like in the word and kind of like getting to know more of what God has set us for, and that he doesn't want us to be anxious for anything, and we have no reason to be anxious. So I have definitely found a lot of peace around my anxiety and being comfortable through just simply praying and just asking God to kind of guide me through this process of managing my anxiety. Another thing that has helped me as well, that I also kind of blend into like my morning devotionals, is journaling. I have always been the type of person who was better at writing out her feelings, like not really saying it verbally, but being able to express it through like written word. So journaling every morning for me has been very therapeutic, with helping me kind of ease my mind and kind of reclaim that peace that I usually feel. So definitely journaling. I've even gotten into the habit every morning as well, of simply just journaling my prayers. So the same prayers I would say to myself or kind of mumble under my voice, I would just simply write those prayers out. And I in those moments, I feel like I'm at peace the most. And I also feel like I am really connecting with God on a deeper level during that as well. So definitely me just saying no to certain situations, me not overwhelming myself, and just being mindful of the type of things that I put on my own schedule, since, you know, for the most part, I do make my own rules, I do make my own schedule. Just being very mindful of the type of things that I'm situations that I'm putting myself in, and then also making sure I'm staying connected to God, making sure I'm giving him that time every single day really helps me to be at peace. Like seriously, especially for like the devotional journaling part, I can tell the difference from when I start my day off, you know, doing my devotional versus when I don't, because typically when I don't, I am so anxious throughout the day. Like I can't settle, I can't, you know, stop my mind from racing. So I definitely have to do that. That's become like one of my big morning routines, is to simply just spend time in his word and to journal as well. Another thing that has helped my anxiety, or helped me to manage my anxiety, is being really mindful of what I do right before I go to bed at night. So I'm someone who likes to sit in bed and just scroll through Twitter, but I definitely believe that what you consume definitely can have a major effect on you, and it definitely can have a major effect on your sleep as well. And I noticed that by scrolling through Twitter a lot, that I would go to sleep thinking about the things that I saw on Twitter, or what people were talking about, or especially during this past election and the way like the world is right now, I would go to sleep with so much of that on my heart, to where it literally made it impossible for me to fall asleep at night. And if I did fall asleep, I was waking up like every few hours. So I'm getting bags under my eyes, I'm having to use like concealer now. So what has helped me to kind of, you know, feel less anxious from the entire day and to actually start getting a good night rest is to put my phone down about an hour or so before I actually lay down and go to bed, and I'll read a book. I have like the Joyce Meyer app on my phone, so I'll read like a devotional before I go to bed. But definitely just getting my mind in a good place instead of consuming it with social media and reality shows has helped me to kind of ease into sleeping better, and also managing my anxiety too. And then the last thing I wanted to say as well, for any of you who may be feeling like you're dealing with anxiety, and I haven't done this yet, but this is actually on my goal list for 2017 as soon as I find the right person, is to actually go and speak to somebody. So I know talking to a therapist, especially in the Black community, is kind of like taboo. We're always told that we can just pray through it, and that, you know, therapists are only for crazy people. Well, yes, I believe you can pray through anything, and yes, I believe that, you know, some people who may be a little bit crazy go talk to therapists too. But I also believe that God put these people here with these gifts to help us through some of our inner issues or some of our inner demons. So I definitely would suggest going to talking to someone. Like I said, I am currently in the search for a therapist in my area, to kind of just put on like my schedule monthly, or, you know, even bi-weekly, to just go to and talk throughout some of my anxiety. Just by doing like a lot of journaling, I feel like a lot of my anxiety has to do with some things that have happened in my past, and I feel like a lot of those kind of reoccurring things keep popping up. So I definitely feel like going and actually just talking to someone who is licensed and knows what they're doing, who can kind of help you talk through your issues, will definitely help to ease your anxiety as well. So number one, if you don't take any of my own advice, I would definitely say go and look for someone. Most churches have like therapists on site. You can find one through like your city that may be very affordable. So definitely, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anything that shouldn't be normal or isn't normal, I highly suggest going and speaking with someone. All right, you guys, so I am going to hop off of here, but I will be checking back with you soon. Bye.